these are 10 of the most popular fragrances of all time. I had to put that Ali on there. All time. Son, they listing you so ugly the sweat roll off the back of your neck just to stay away from your face. Son, they listing today you gonna get boxing lessons and falling down lessons. Popular fragrances of all time. Well, you know, if I wear it Howard Cosell, it must be good. What's going on YouTube? It's your boy Darren. I'm the Bowtie Fragrance Guy. What's up? What's up? What's up? This channel we talk about fragrances as well as fashion, man. So if you love looking good and smelling great, then this is the right channel for you. And go ahead and consider clicking the subscribe button. And also take another quick second to hit the bell icon to ensure you get notified when I upload new content. So guys, you saw the promo commercial. We are still running the special, man. Buy one, get one free, or either buy one fragrance and get 30% off. Once again, thank you to everybody that has already purchased one or both of my fragrances, Obad and Serenade. Listen, I sincerely appreciate your support, and I'm confident you will not be disappointed when you get your hands on these bottles, man. So again, this is a promo, so it won't last long. So if you're interested, now I think is the best time to go ahead and grab one or two of these fragrances and add them to your collection. So guys, you see the title of the video, 10 of the most popular fragrances of all time. That's what we're gonna be getting into on today's video. Now I want to say, you're gonna notice a lot more designer fragrances on this list versus niche fragrances. That's because when you start talking about the most popular of all time, these fragrances really span and go outside of the fragrance community. The fragrance community really is a really small segment of people in this world. And when you start talking about the most popular fragrances of all time, you're really bringing in the opinion and the results based on, of course, the world at large, which a lot of people don't really fall into this small group that we call the fragrance community. A lot of these people are folks that aren't really into fragrances like that. I mean, you know, the folks that still call everything cologne. That's like, I got a good bottle of cologne at the house. You get what I'm saying, man. So these are people that may have one or two bottles. So a lot of these fragrances on this list are designer fragrances because most people outside the fragrance community, they really only know about designer fragrances. They don't really know anything about niche. So most of these fragrances are designer fragrances. So if you want to see what made this list of 10 of the most popular fragrances of all time, then you know the routine, man. Keep it locked right here. All right, guys, we're back. Thank you so much for keeping it locked in. Let's go ahead and jump into this list. One additional order of business before we go into the list. I didn't go back to the 70s, early 80s, and that era of time. I mean, obviously with my age, which I'm not that old, I only went back to like maybe the late 80s. So it's like from the late 80s on through. And these are not the only 10 popular fragrances, but these are 10 of the most popular. I mean, the numbers don't lie on this. So just that, wanted to give you that quick order of business, or that's one of the things I utilize as far as, you know, evaluating this list. I looked at when they were done as well. Fragrances that I could relate to, basically, is what I'm saying. All right, so with that being said, the first fragrance up is an absolute classic. And this one is called Joop Homme. Joop Homme, or as some people like to refer to it as Joop. I know that's what I called it when I heard about this fragrance. I called it Joop. Now this fragrance was released in the year of 1989. 1989. So listen, that's how far we're going back with this one, man. But this is definitely a classic, definitely one of the most popular fragrances of all time. Now, since the release of Joop or Joop Homme, of course, we have seen other fragrances that have come along that a lot of people have compared to this particular fragrance. We're talking about primarily, of course, Mont Blanc Individuel, which was released in 2003, I think it was. And then we also have one of my favorite fragrances of all time, which is Creed's Original Santal. And while I can say, of course, there's a similarity in the DNA of Joop or Joop and the other fragrances that I mentioned. But I will say, of course, at this point in time in life, I would definitely personally prefer those other two fragrances over this. Now, this is not exactly what it was when it was released in 1989. This was like the quintessential clubbing fragrance when it came out in 89. Everybody's dad that I pretty much knew had a bottle of Joop or Joop in their collection, and they used to wear it out, and they used to wear a lot of it. Now, this is not a fragrance that you would want to spray a whole lot of because it is still very, very much a beast mode performing fragrance. Even these later formulations of this fragrance still gives great performance. But I will say, comparatively speaking to what it was, it's a lot more chemical and synthetic than it was back in the day. But still, the less, if this is a fragrance, if you're a collector, I think you at least need to have it in your bottle. As you can see, I don't wear it much. But just for nostalgia's sake, sometimes when I'm around the house, when I'm alone in my room, sometimes I stare. No, I'm just playing. That's about the same year this came out. Anyway, man, sometimes I'll throw it on just to kind of get that nostalgic feeling, man, and remind myself of some of the great times in life. So one of the most popular fragrances of all time definitely goes to this one right here from the, well, I don't know what house this is. But anyway, this is called Joop. All right, guys, the next fragrance on this list, this one was released in the year of 2010. And again, the numbers and sales don't lie on this fragrance. Definitely a very popular fragrance from the house of Chanel. This one is called Bleu de Chanel. Bleu de Chanel. Now, right here I have the EDT version of this fragrance. Since then, of course, we've had the Eau de Parfum as well as the Parfum, which honestly the Parfum is my favorite. But this fragrance is popular for a reason. It's a really nice, creamy citrus fragrance. The creaminess comes in from the sandalwood. You have a little bit of labdanum in this as well. But really, to me, this is really about the citruses in the opening, especially the EDT. The EDT has a lot more citrus take on this DNA. Now, to me, the Eau de Parfum and the Parfum goes a little bit more, brings in a little bit more of the woodier elements of this fragrance. But this one is all about those citruses. And for the most part, that's what a lot of the masses love. You know, again, those folks that I talked about that don't really own a lot of fragrances, they love those nice citrus-based fragrances. And this thing just smells absolutely amazing. Kind of changed the way that a lot of people think about the blue, typical blue fragrance DNA. Man, this stuff is amazing. So I see why it's so popular. So if for some reason you don't have this one in your collection, definitely, you know, put it in your life. Easy to wear, year-round, great fragrance from the house of Chanel. This is called Bleu de Chanel. All right, guys, the next fragrance on this list, this one comes from the house of Nautica, and this is Nautica Voyage. Nautica Voyage. Now, this fragrance was released in the year of 2006. The perfume on this was Maurice Roussel. And man, this stuff is phenomenal. You get that beautiful sea salty kind of aquatic vibe in this fragrance. Definitely one of the most popular of all times, again, based on the numbers. This is one of the best selling fragrances of all time on Amazon, which is the place where a lot of people go nowadays to do a lot of their online shopping. Now, the great part about that, and something that significantly contributes to that, outside of the fact that it smells amazing, is the fact that you can get this bottle in most places that you look for under 20 bucks. To me, it's a win-win situation. Definitely one that I think should be in everybody's summer and spring rotation, especially the summertime, because it just smells amazing, especially for that price. What I love about it, in addition to that really salty, aquatic vibe that you get from this, is that beautiful apple opening. I love that apple accord in the opening of this fragrance. Definitely worthy and worth the $20 or 15 bucks or whatever it is you're gonna pay for it. So one of the most popular fragrances of all time, definitely from the house of Nautica. This is Nautica Voyage. All right, guys, the next fragrance on the list, one of the more modern fragrances on this entire list, but definitely has become one of the most popular fragrances of all time because of the fact that it spans both genders, men and women alike. Love this fragrance from the house of Maison Francis Kurkdjian, Baccarat Rouge 540. Baccarat Rouge 540. Just like when I talk about Creed Aventus, this fragrance was released in 2015. And men and women love this fragrance. It is definitely unisex, and it became very, very popular. One of the ways that you always are able to tell that when you look at how many fragrances that came after it that tried to copy this fragrance DNA. This is probably one of the most cloned fragrances of all time, next to Creed Aventus. Always a telltale sign that this fragrance is extremely popular. So it's one of my favorites, of course. I see why it's so popular in my personal opinion, but it definitely deserves a spot on a list like this from the house of Maison Francis Kurkdjian. This is Baccarat Rouge 540. All right, guys, next up on the list, there's no way I could have made a list like this and not include this fragrance from the house of Davidoff. This is, of course, coolwater. Coolwater. This fragrance was released in the year of 1988. Woo, that's a long time ago. The year of 1988. And man, guess what? To me, this is one of those fragrances, again, that when I talked about Joop or Joop, it's just a fragrance that I think every guy should have in his collection. This is another fragrance at this point that you can get for, in most places, for under that $20 price point. And to me, even today, this fragrance is still worth it. Yeah, it's got that really, really fresh, again, a kind of aquatic opening. But what I think made this fragrance so popular is the fact that it gives you that nice aquatic vibe. And I think a lot of people are really attracted to that kind of DNA because it's just easy to wear. But then it's very, very masculine as it starts to dry down. You get very, very aromatic quality from lavender in this fragrance. And then, of course, on the dry down, you get some oak moss and things of that nature to really round it out. Just, you know, again, a very classic smelling fragrance. A lot of people compare this to Green Irish Tweed, which, of course, that fragrance was released in 1985. That fragrance will probably be on part 2 of this particular series because I can't get all of the most popular fragrances in the world on one list. But this is just the initial list, but I do think this one deserves a spot on this list, man. So check it out from the house of Davidoff, a classic. This is called Coolwater. All right, guys, the next fragrance up on this list, the only other niche fragrance on this list, needs no introduction. Creed Aventus. And nobody can argue the fact that this is one of the most popular fragrances of all time. It is definitely the most popular niche fragrance of all time. You guys know what this is. I'm not going to go into it, but there are about 369 clones of this fragrance. If that doesn't speak to how popular this fragrance is in the DNA, then I don't know what does. Definitely deserving of a spot on a list like this of the most popular fragrances of all time from the house of Creed. This is Creed Aventus. All right, guys, the next fragrance on this list, this was one of the most popular fragrances of the 90s by far. Maybe the most popular fragrance that was released in the 90s from the house of Liz Claiborne, which is probably the last time you'll hear me mention a Liz Claiborne fragrance on this channel. I'm just kidding. It's not a house that I talk about a lot, but this one right here deserves it. This is called Curve. Curve. Now, I heard everybody and their mother and father talk about this fragrance in the mid to late 90s. Curve. Everybody wanted a bottle of Curve. Now, I sprayed this thing earlier today, and guess what? It smells like the 90s, but it still smells great. It really does. And I see why it became so popular. It just smelled good. Period, point blank, end of discussion. And when people say cologne, I'll need a bottle of cologne, I think about fragrances like this. It smells like a nice cologne. That's exactly what this smells like, the best way for me to describe it. But man, again, deserving of the title of one of the most popular fragrances because, of course, in this era of time, it was one of the best. So check this one out, guys, from the house of Liz Claiborne. This is called Curve. All right, guys, the next fragrance up on this list, we're going back to the house of Christian Dior, and this is called, of course, Sauvage. Dior Sauvage. And just like when I talked about Bleu de Chanel, I am using the EDT, of course, because it was the first iteration of this fragrance that was released in the year of 2015. And just like Bleu de Chanel changed the way people viewed blue fragrances in 2010 with Bleu de Chanel, this came and revolutionized the blue fragrance DNA again in the year of 2015 with the inclusion of Ambroxan. This is a very, very fresh fragrance, but it's really, really spicy and peppery as well. Some people don't like this fragrance DNA, but again, I think the people that dislike it is really more about it being a victim of its success because it's so popular. So many people wear this fragrance, but of course, that's the case because most people really consider this to be a great fragrance, especially, again, what I refer to as the average person that's going to go into a Macy's or a Dillard's or one of these department stores to purchase a fragrance. If they smell this, most of the time they're going to go with a fragrance DNA like this because it just smells good. Again, so definitely deserving of to be on a list like this, one of the most popular fragrances of all time, from the house of Christian Dior. Again, this is called Dior Sauvage. All right, guys, the next fragrance on the list, this one comes from the house of Dolce & Gabbana, and this is called Dolce & Gabbana The One, and this is the Eau de Parfum concentration. Eau de Parfum concentration, and this is just still, in my opinion, one of the best sexy date night fragrances of all time. It came out in the year of 2015, and it is such a sensual fragrance, and it's very, very popular to me for good reason. Again, if you're gonna be going out on the town on a date, regardless of the setting, honestly, this is one of the best fragrances still, in my opinion, that you can wear. It has a nice, smooth, ambery, dry down, ambery, with amber tobacco. Of course, you get some ginger in this as well, orange blossom. Oh man, just a beautiful fragrance. Still one of my favorites of all time. And again, it's very, very, very sexy and attractive and alluring. And I think, for me, honestly, I think that really contributes to the popularity of this scent. It just smells amazing. So definitely, again, deserving to be on this list from the house of Dolce & Gabbana. This is the One, Eau de Parfum. All right, guys, and last but not least, I would say that I saved the best for last, and in this case, talking about popular fragrances, I think I did. This one comes from the house of Giorgio Armani, and this is called Acqua Di Gio. Acqua Di Gio, man, this was released in 1996, and I think this is probably the only fragrance that was more popular than Liz Claiborne's Curve. Again, it came out in the same year, but this was the nice aquatic fragrance that everybody wanted to get their hands on. And again, I always say numbers don't lie. This is the best-selling fragrance of all time. Can't say that it's not popular because the numbers don't lie. So guys, you know what this fragrance is. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail about it, but definitely deserving of being on a list like this of the most popular fragrances of all time. Check this one out, guys, from the house of Giorgio Armani, which I think is still worth having in your collection today. This is called Acqua Di Gio. All right, guys, that's it. That's my time. I hope you enjoyed this video as I gave you 10 of the most popular fragrances of all time. I'm definitely going to be coming back and doing a part 2 of this. So if you guys can think of any other fragrances that you think are worthy of being on a list like this, leave it down in the comment section below. As always, I appreciate your time and attention to these videos because, of course, you don't have to watch, but I thank you for doing that. You could have been anywhere else in the world, but I appreciate you taking out a few moments to watch this video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and share these videos out to folks that you think could use this information or find me entertaining. Because I'm your guy, Darren, the Bowtie Fragrance Guy. I love to look good, and of course, I love to smell amazing. So until next time, guys, keep looking good, keep smelling even better. I'll catch you on the flip side. Peace.